The old man's hands were shaking as he reached into the McDonald's dumpster. Route 47 was quiet that Thursday morning. Cold wind cut through the parking lot. The man moved slowly, carefully sorting through the trash with dignity that didn't belong to desperation. He wasn't tearing bags open, wasn't making a mess. He worked methodically, taking only what looked clean enough to eat, then tying each bag neatly shut again. Inside the restaurant, 13 men in leather vests sat at their usual table. The Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club. They came here every Thursday before their morning ride. Mitch Donovan was the first to notice the old man through the window. "Check that jacket," Mitch said quietly, squinting. "That's a service patch. Old one too." Everyone looked. The jacket was worn and faded, but the patch was unmistakable.
Korean war.
The same war some of their fathers had fought in. Garrett Brennan, the club president, stood up slowly. He was 68 years old, a Vietnam vet himself. His face went hard when he saw what the old man was doing. "Let's go talk to him," Garrett said. Tyler Hayes, the youngest member at 26, looked nervous. "All of us? We'll scare him." Garrett shook his head. "Just me and Mitch." Outside, the cold hit them hard. The man froze when he saw them walking toward him. His whole body tensed like a cornered animal. "I'm not causing trouble," he said quickly, his voice rough. "I'll go. Don't call the manager." Garrett raised his hands. "Easy, brother. We're not here to chase you off." His eyes dropped to the faded patch on the man's chest. "You served, didn't you?" The old man hesitated. Pride flickered through the exhaustion on his face. "Long time ago," he said. "Doesn't matter now." "It matters to us," Mitch said. "When did you eat a real meal last?" The man's gaze fell to the ground. "Tuesday," he said quietly. "The church serves lunch on Tuesdays." Garrett felt his chest tighten. "It's Thursday. You've gone 2 days." "I get by," the man said quickly, like admitting hunger was weakness. Garrett nodded slowly. "What's your name?" "Warren. Warren Briggs." "Well, Warren," Garrett said.
"I'm Garrett."
"This is Mitch. We're with the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club. We've got a table inside with your name on it." Warren shook his head and stepped back. "I can't pay for that." "Did we ask you for money?" Mitch said. "Come on. Our food's getting cold." Warren's chin lifted. "I don't take charity." "It's not charity," Garrett said. His tone wasn't begging. It was respectful. "It's one man offering another man breakfast. You'd do the same for me if things were turned around, wouldn't you?" That was the line that made Warren pause. The walk back into McDonald's was slow. Warren's pride made every step feel heavy. But when they pushed through the door, something happened that Warren didn't expect. Every single one of the 13 men at that table stood up. Not to intimidate him, but as an honor guard. Garrett's voice carried across the room. "Brothers, this is Warren Briggs. He served. He's one of us." No one spoke for a moment. Then Mitch raised his hand. "Welcome home, brother." Warren stood there, confused, unsure whether to sit or run. Mitch walked to the counter and came back with 2 breakfast platters, hot coffee, and an apple pie. He set everything in front of Warren. "Eat slow," Frank Miller said gently. Frank was the oldest among them at 72. "An empty stomach isn't used to food like this." Warren picked up his fork with trembling hands. He took the first bite and stopped. He closed his eyes. A tear rolled down his cheek. The men didn't ask questions, didn't hover. They just talked like they always did about rides, about the weather, about Jake's motorcycle that kept breaking down. They pulled Warren into the conversation without forcing him to talk about what hurt. 15 minutes passed before Warren finally spoke. "Why?" he asked, his voice soft. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm just an old man eating out of a dumpster." Tyler answered first. "My grandfather always said the hardest part of life isn't what happens to you. It's when people stop seeing you. We don't forget, sir. Not the ones who built the road before us." Warren's breath caught. He stared at the table. Then quietly he began to talk. His wife Dorothy had passed away 18 months ago. Cancer. The medical bills had destroyed them. The house, the car, the savings, everything was gone. His monthly veteran's check didn't cover rent anywhere decent. And every time he tried to get help, the system asked for things he didn't have. Permanent address. A working phone number. "I've got one last appointment Monday," Warren said, his hands folded tight. "If I can't prove I've got a place to stay, I lose my benefits." They call it being unreachable. Funny word, isn't it? When the truth is, I'm right here. I've always been right here. But what Warren didn't know was that this breakfast was about to change everything. Because Garrett Brennan had just made a decision that would save Warren's life. And 6 months from now, that decision would lead to a fight that would test everything they'd built. A fight that would force them all to answer one question. What does family really mean? But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, we need to understand how a group of bikers and one forgotten veteran became something nobody expected. 2 years earlier, Warren Briggs had been a different man. He'd lived in a small house on the edge of town with Dorothy, his wife of 47 years. They weren't rich, but they were comfortable. Warren's veteran benefits and Dorothy's part-time job at the library were enough. They had routines. Coffee on the porch every morning. Lunch at the diner on Saturdays. Church on Sundays. Movie nights on Fridays where Dorothy always fell asleep halfway through. It was a simple life. A good life. Then Dorothy started feeling tired all the time. At first, they thought it was just age. She was 69. But the tiredness got worse. Then came the weight loss. The pain. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday afternoon in March. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctor said she had maybe 6 months. Maybe less. Warren held Dorothy's hand in that cold examination room and watched his whole world crack apart. "We'll fight this," Warren said. And they did. Chemo. Radiation. Experimental treatments. They threw everything at it. Warren sold the car to pay for treatments insurance wouldn't cover. He took out loans against the house. He spent every penny they had. Dorothy lived for 11 months instead of 6. Warren counted that as a victory. She died on a Sunday morning in February. Warren was holding her hand. Her last words were, "Don't be alone, Warren. Promise me you won't be alone." He'd promised. But he'd lied. After Dorothy died, the bills came. Mountains of them. The treatments that hadn't worked still cost everything. The hospital wanted $70,000. The specialist wanted 30. The pharmacy wanted 12. Warren didn't have it. He lost the house 4 months after Dorothy's funeral. The bank was patient, but not that patient. He lost the car 2 months after that when he couldn't make payments. He tried to find somewhere to live, but everywhere wanted first month, last month, security deposit, background checks, credit checks. He had bad credit now because of the medical bills. Nobody would rent to him. His veteran benefits gave him $640 a month. Not enough for an apartment. Not enough for anything except survival. Warren started sleeping in his car. Then he lost the car. He started sleeping in shelters. But shelters were dangerous. His medication got stolen twice. Once, someone tried to rob him while he slept. So Warren started sleeping outside. Under bridges. In alleys. Behind buildings. He stopped trying to get help. Every office he walked into asked for paperwork he didn't have. Permanent address. Identification he'd lost. Phone numbers that didn't work anymore. The system wasn't designed for men like him. Men who'd fallen through the cracks. So Warren became invisible. He learned which restaurants threw out food at what times. He learned which churches served meals on which days. He learned how to stay warm in winter and cool in summer. He learned how to survive. But surviving isn't living. Warren went days without speaking to anyone. Weeks without anyone looking him in the eye. Months without anyone saying his name. He was a ghost. On the morning the Iron Wolves found him, Warren had been thinking about Dorothy's last words. Don't be alone. He'd broken that promise. He was more alone than he'd ever been in his life. He was sorting through the McDonald's trash, looking for something edible, when he heard footsteps behind him. He'd expected to be chased off, yelled at, maybe arrested. He never expected what actually happened. But that breakfast was just the beginning. Because Monday morning, Warren wouldn't walk into that government office alone. He'd walk in with 4 men in leather vests standing behind him. And the woman at the desk, who'd ignored men like Warren 1,000 times before, would suddenly pay very close attention. What happened next would prove that sometimes all it takes to change a life is someone who refuses to look away. Monday morning came cold and gray. Warren stood outside the Veterans Affairs office at 8:45. His appointment was at 9. He was early because he'd walked the 3 miles from the park where he'd slept. He was wearing the same clothes he'd worn Thursday. His only clothes. But Mitch had taken him to a laundromat Sunday afternoon. At least he was clean. Warren reached for the door handle. His hand was shaking. Then he heard them. The sound of motorcycle engines. Deep and rumbling. Getting closer. Warren turned and saw 4 bikes pulling into the parking lot. Garrett, Mitch, Frank, and Tyler. They parked and walked toward him. "You didn't think we'd let you do this alone, did you?" Garrett said. Warren's throat went tight. "You don't have to." "We know we don't have to," Mitch interrupted. "We want to." They walked into the building together. Warren in front. 4 men in leather vests right behind him. The waiting room was full. People looked up when they entered. Some stared at the bikers. Some looked away quickly. Warren checked in at the front desk. The woman barely looked at him. "Take a seat. We'll call you." They sat. Warren's leg bounced nervously. Garrett put a hand on his shoulder. "Breathe, brother. We're right here." An hour passed. Then another. People who'd arrived after Warren got called before him. Finally, Garrett stood up and walked to the desk. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Warren Briggs checked in 2 hours ago. His appointment was at 9. It's now 11. The woman looked annoyed. "We're very busy. He'll be called when we're ready." He's a 71-year-old Korean war veteran who's about to lose his benefits because he doesn't have a permanent address, Garrett said. His voice was still polite, but firm. "We'd appreciate it if someone could see him today." The woman's face changed slightly.
Korean va.
"Yes, ma'am." She typed something into her computer. "I'll see what I can do." 10 minutes later, Warren was called back. Garrett started to stand, but Warren shook his head. "I need to do this part myself." "We'll be right here," Garrett promised. Warren disappeared through the door. The caseworker was a tired-looking man in his 50s named Paul Henderson. "Mr. Briggs," Paul said, looking at his file. "You're here because your benefits are being terminated due to lack of permanent address. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir." "Do you have a permanent address now?" Warren pulled out a piece of paper. Garrett had written it out for him Saturday night. "Yes, sir. Iron Wolves Clubhouse, 2847, Route 47, Millbrook, Connecticut." Paul looked at the paper, then at Warren. "A motorcycle club?" "Yes, sir. They've offered me a room. For as long as I need it." Paul typed something, frowned, typed more. "Mr. Briggs, I need verification. A lease, a utility bill in your name at this address. Something official." Warren's stomach dropped. He didn't have any of that. "I just moved in Saturday," Warren said. "I don't have bills yet. Then I can't verify the address. Without verification, I can't restore your benefits."
I'm sorry.
Warren felt everything crumbling again. He'd been so close. There was a knock on the door. Garrett stuck his head in. "Excuse me, is there a problem?" Paul looked annoyed. "Sir, this is a private meeting."
I'm Garrett Brennan.
"I'm the president of the Iron Wolves and the property owner of the address Mr. Briggs just gave you. If you need verification, I'm here to provide it." Paul hesitated. "Do you have documentation? Property deed? Utility bills?" "In my truck. I'll be right back." Garrett returned 5 minutes later with a folder. Property deed, utility bills, and a notarized letter stating that Warren Briggs was a legal resident of the clubhouse property. Paul read everything carefully. Then he looked at Warren. "Mr. Briggs, you understand this is highly unusual." "Yes, sir. These men are vouching for you. If this address becomes invalid, you'll lose your benefits again." "I understand." Paul typed for a long time. Then he printed several forms. "Sign here." And here. Initial here. Warren signed with shaking hands. Your benefits are reinstated effective immediately, Paul said. Your next check will be direct deposited Wednesday. Warren couldn't speak. He just nodded. Outside, the 4 bikers were waiting. Warren walked out and the look on his face said everything. We did it, Warren whispered. I've got my benefits back. Mitch clapped him on the shoulder. Tyler was grinning. Frank wiped his eyes. Garrett just nodded. Told you we had your back, brother. But as they walked toward the motorcycles, none of them noticed the car parked across the street. None of them saw the woman inside taking pictures. Pictures of Warren walking into the VA office with 4 bikers. Pictures of them laughing and celebrating afterward. Pictures that would end up in the hands of someone who'd use them to try to destroy everything they'd built. But that threat was still weeks away. First, Warren had to learn what it meant to have a home again. The Iron Wolves clubhouse wasn't fancy. It was an old warehouse that Garrett had bought 20 years ago. He'd converted half of it into a garage for motorcycle repairs. The other half was living space, kitchen, a common room with mismatched furniture. For small bedrooms upstairs for members who needed a place to crash. One of those rooms was now Warren's. It was small, maybe 10 feet by 12 feet. A single bed, a dresser, tiny closet, a window that looked out at the trees behind the property. Warren stood in the doorway that Monday afternoon, staring at the room like he couldn't believe it was real. It's not much, Garrett said, but it's yours. It's everything, Warren said quietly. That first week, Warren barely left his room. Not because he was unwelcome, but because he couldn't quite believe this was happening. He kept waiting for someone to tell him it was a mistake, that he had to leave, but nobody did. The guys gave him space, but they also included him. Frank knocked on his door Tuesday morning. We're making breakfast. You hungry? Warren was always hungry. In the kitchen, Mitch was cooking eggs and bacon. Tyler was burning toast. Jake was arguing with someone on the phone about motorcycle parts. They made room for Warren at the table like he'd always been there. Sleep okay? Mitch asked. Best sleep I've had in 2 years, Warren admitted. Good, because you're on dish duty tonight. Warren blinked. What? Everyone contributes, Garrett explained. You live here, you help out. Dishes, cleaning, whatever needs doing. That work for you? Warren felt something loosen in his chest. They weren't treating him like charity. They were treating him like he belonged. That works for me. By the end of the second week, Warren had fallen into a routine. He helped with cooking. He cleaned. He even started helping in the garage. He didn't know much about motorcycles, but he could hand tools to the guys who did. He felt useful again. Needed. One Thursday morning, Garrett found Warren sitting on the front steps, watching the sun come up. You okay? Garrett asked, sitting down next to him. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and this'll all be gone, Warren admitted. That I'll be back behind that McDonald's. You're not going anywhere, Garrett said firmly. You're home. Warren's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Garrett was quiet for a moment. You know why I started this club? After I came back from Vietnam, I was lost, angry, didn't fit anywhere. I met some other vets who felt the same way. We started riding together, became brothers, became family. This club saved my life, Warren. It gave me purpose when I didn't have one. And that's what we do. We look out for our own. But I'm not a member. You served. You're a veteran. That makes you one of us. And besides, Garrett smiled slightly. We've been thinking about changing that. Warren looked confused. That Saturday, Garrett called a club meeting. All 13 members gathered in the common room. Warren was told to sit in the center. Warren Briggs, Garrett began formally. You've lived with us for 3 weeks. You've contributed. You've shown respect. And every one of us has come to consider you a brother. We'd like to make that official. He held out a leather vest. The Iron Wolves patch on the back. Warren's name stitched across the front. We're offering you a place in this club. Full membership. If you want it. Warren stared at the vest. His hands were shaking. I'm 71 years old. I can't ride a motorcycle anymore. Don't need to, Mitch said. We've got enough riders. What we need is someone who knows how to keep 13 idiots fed and organized. Everyone laughed. So what do you say? Garrett asked. You want to be an iron wolf? Warren took the vest with trembling hands. He pulled it on. Fit perfectly. I'd be honored. The guys cheered. Tyler opened beers. Frank turned on music. They celebrated until midnight. That night, lying in his small room, wearing his new vest, Warren thought about Dorothy's last words. Don't be alone. He wasn't alone anymore. But what Warren didn't know was that someone was about to challenge everything the Iron Wolves had built. Someone who believed that men like Warren belonged on the streets. Someone with power. And when the news story broke 3 weeks later, it would force the Iron Wolves to fight not just for Warren, but for every forgotten veteran in America. The battle was coming, and it would change everything. Started with a phone call. Garrett was in the garage on a Tuesday afternoon when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Garrett Brennan, president of the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club? Who's asking? My name is Jessica Palmer. I'm a reporter with Channel 7 News. I'm doing a story about veteran homelessness, and your name came up. I'd love to interview you. Garrett's guard went up immediately. How did you get this number? Public records. Look, Mr. Brennan. I heard you and your club helped a homeless veteran recently. Warren Briggs? I think it's a beautiful story. America needs to hear it. Warren's not homeless anymore. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Can we meet? Garrett didn't trust reporters. Never had. But something in Jessica's voice sounded genuine. I'll think about it. He hung up and went to find Warren. Warren was in the kitchen, making lunch for everyone. He'd become the unofficial club cook. Turned out he was good at it. Got a weird call, Garrett said. Reporter wants to do a story about you. About what happened. Warren's face went pale. A story? No, absolutely not. That's what I figured. Just wanted to let you know. But Jessica Palmer didn't give up. She called again the next day, and the day after that. Finally, Garrett agreed to meet her just to get her to stop calling. They met at a diner off Route 47. Jessica was younger than Garrett expected. Maybe 35. Professional but warm. Thank you for meeting me, Jessica said. I promise I'm not here to twist anything. I just think what you did for Warren Briggs is important. We didn't do anything special. We helped a brother who needed help. That's exactly why it's special, Mr. Brennan. Do you know how many homeless veterans there are in this country? Over 40,000. Men and women who served, who sacrificed, and now they're sleeping on streets. And most people walk right past them. But you didn't. You saw Warren. You helped him. That matters. Garrett studied her face. She seemed sincere. What do you want? An interview. Just 30 minutes. You, Warren, maybe a few club members. I want to tell your story. Show people that helping doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's just buying breakfast and giving someone a place to stay. Garrett shook his head. Warren won't do it. He's private. He doesn't want attention. Will you at least ask him? Garrett promised he would. That night he talked to Warren. And to his surprise, Warren said yes. If my story can help even one veteran get off the streets, Warren said quietly, then it's worth it. The interview happened that Friday. Jessica and her cameraman came to the clubhouse. They filmed Warren in his room. They filmed the guys working in the garage. They interviewed Garrett, Mitch, and Tyler. Why did you help him? Jessica asked Garrett. Because he's one of us. Because no veteran should have to eat out of a dumpster. Because it was the right thing to do. What do you want people to know? Garrett looked directly at the camera. There are thousands of Warrens out there. Veterans who served their country and now have nothing. They're not lazy. They're not addicts. They just fell through the cracks. And if every person watching this helped just one veteran, we could end this. It doesn't take millions of dollars. It takes giving a damn. The story aired the following Tuesday during the evening news. The Iron Wolves, Bikers Who Give Back, was the headline. The story was 4 minutes long. It showed Warren's journey from the McDonald's dumpster to the clubhouse. It showed the guys laughing together, working together. It showed real brotherhood. The response was immediate. By Wednesday morning, the story had been shared 10,000 times on social media. Local news stations across the state picked it up. By Thursday, national news was calling. Garrett's phone rang nonstop. Most calls were positive. People thanking them. People asking how they could help veterans in their own communities. But not everyone was happy. On Friday morning, Garrett got a call from the Millbrook Town Council. "Mr. Brennan, this is Margaret Cooper from the Town Council. We need to discuss your operation." "What operation?" "You're running an unlicensed residential facility. You can't just house people without proper permits, inspections, and zoning approval." Garrett felt his blood go cold. "Warren is a member of our club. He's living at our private property. We received a complaint. We're opening an investigation. If you're found to be operating an illegal shelter, you'll face fines and possible closure." "A complaint? From who?" "That's confidential." The call ended. Garrett sat in his office, staring at the wall. Someone was trying to shut them down. Someone had seen the news story and decided to use it against them. But who? And why? The answer would come sooner than he expected. And it would lead to a fight that would test everything the Iron Wolves believed in. A fight that would force them to choose between backing down or standing up for every forgotten veteran in America. The war was just beginning. The inspection happened on Monday. 3 people from the town showed up at the clubhouse. Margaret Cooper from the town council, a building inspector, and a woman from the State Department of Social Services. They walked through every room, took notes, took pictures. Warren watched from the common room, his face pale. "This is my fault. I never should have agreed to that interview." "This isn't your fault," Garrett said firmly. "Someone's trying to cause trouble. We'll handle it." After 2 hours, the inspectors gathered everyone in the common room. "Mr. Brennan," Margaret began, "there are several violations here. The upstairs isn't zoned for residential use. You don't have the proper permits for housing. And if you're operating any kind of shelter, you need state licenses and regular inspections." "We're not operating a shelter," Garrett argued. "Warren is a member of our club. This is private property." "That's not how the law sees it," the DSS woman said. "If you're providing housing to someone in need, that falls under our jurisdiction." "So what are you saying?" Margaret's face was serious. "You have 2 options. 1, you apply for all the proper permits and licenses, which will take months and cost tens of thousands of dollars. Or 2, Mr. Briggs finds another place to live." The room went silent. "No," Mitch said. "Absolutely not. That's not happening," Tyler added. Garrett stood up. "You want to fine us? Fine us. You want to shut us down? Try. But Warren's not leaving. He's home." Margaret looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Brennan, I understand your position, but the law is the law." "Then the law is wrong," Garrett said flatly. After they left, the guys gathered to figure out what to do. "Who filed the complaint?" Frank asked. "That's what we need to know. Whoever it was, they waited until after the news story aired," Jake pointed out. "They wanted maximum attention." Garrett's phone rang. Jessica Palmer. "Garrett, I just heard about the town council. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." "Not your fault, Jessica. You were trying to help. Let me make it right. I want to do a follow-up story. Show people what's happening. Put pressure on the town council. I don't know if that'll help. Trust me. Sometimes the court of public opinion is more powerful than the actual court." The second story aired Wednesday night. "Town threatens to shut down veteran housing," was the headline. Jessica didn't hold back. She interviewed Garrett again. She interviewed Warren, who explained what losing the clubhouse would mean. She interviewed veterans advocacy groups who called the town's actions shameful. And she ended with a call to action. If you believe Warren Briggs deserves a home, call the Millbrook Town Council. Tell them that veterans deserve better. Tell them that people trying to help shouldn't be punished. The response was nuclear. By Thursday morning, the town council's phones were ringing non-stop. Hundreds of calls, then thousands. People from across the country demanding that Warren be allowed to stay. The story went viral. National news picked it up. Veterans groups organized protests. Someone started a petition that got 50,000 signatures in 24 hours. Garrett's phone rang Friday afternoon. It was Margaret Cooper. "Mr. Brennan, the council wants to meet with you. Can you come in Monday at 9? "What for?" "To discuss a resolution." Monday morning, Garrett walked into the town council chambers. Warren insisted on coming with him. So did Mitch and Tyler. The chambers were packed. Media cameras lined the back wall. Dozens of veterans and their families filled the seats. Margaret Cooper looked overwhelmed. "Mr. Brennan, the council has reviewed your case. Given the unique circumstances and the public interest, we're prepared to offer a compromise.
I'm listening.
We'll grant you a special exemption. The Iron Wolves Clubhouse can house up to 5 veterans at any given time without requiring shelter licenses. However, you'll need to pass basic safety inspections and maintain records." Garrett exchanged glances with Warren. "That's acceptable. There's one condition," Margaret added. "You have to help us create a program, a template that other organizations can use to help homeless veterans. Work with the county to identify veterans in need and connect them with resources." Garrett smiled slowly. "You want us to expand what we're doing?" "Yes, if you're willing." "We're willing." The room erupted in applause. Outside the chambers, reporters surrounded them. Jessica Palmer was grinning. "How do you feel, Warren?" she asked. Warren looked at the cameras, at Garrett and the guys standing beside him, at the crowd of veterans and supporters. "I feel like I'm home," Warren said simply. "And I feel like maybe we just started something bigger than any of us expected." He was right. But what none of them knew yet was that this victory would lead to something even more important. Something that would change not just Warren's life or the Iron Wolves, but hundreds of lives across the state. The real work was just beginning. 6 months passed. The Iron Wolves Veteran Housing Program officially launched in April. Garrett hadn't planned to become a nonprofit director. He just wanted to help one old man get off the streets. But now he was sitting in meetings with county officials, applying for grants, and building something bigger than he'd ever imagined. The clubhouse now housed 4 veterans besides Warren. There was Danny Silva, a Gulf War vet with PTSD who'd been living in his car. There was Marcus Webb, a Vietnam vet who'd lost everything after his wife died. There was James Porter, an Iraq War vet struggling with traumatic brain injury. And there was Robert Chen, a Navy vet who'd fallen into addiction after leaving the service. Each man had his own story, his own pain, his own path to the clubhouse. And each man was healing. The program was simple. The Iron Wolves provided housing, food, and support. In exchange, the veterans contributed what they could. Some helped in the garage. Some cooked. Some cleaned. Everyone was expected to participate in weekly group meetings where they talked about struggles and progress. It wasn't therapy, but it was community. And for men who'd felt invisible for so long, being seen mattered. Warren had become the unofficial house manager. He made sure everyone ate, made sure rooms stayed clean, made sure nobody fell through the cracks. "You're good at this," Garrett told him one afternoon. Warren shrugged. "I know what it feels like to be forgotten. I'm not going to let it happen to anyone else." The program attracted attention. Other motorcycle clubs reached out wanting to start similar programs. Veterans organizations asked for advice. Garrett traveled to nearby towns, helping other groups set up housing for homeless vets. Jessica Palmer did regular updates on the program. The stories brought in donations. Not huge amounts, but enough to cover food, utilities, and basic expenses. Life at the clubhouse settled into a rhythm. Thursday mornings were special. That's when all the guys, residents and club members alike, rode to McDonald's for breakfast. The same McDonald's where everything had started. The manager knew them now. She always had their table ready. One Thursday in October, Warren was drinking coffee when he noticed something outside. A young man was searching through the dumpster. Warren's chest tightened. The man was thin, dirty, moving with the same careful desperation Warren remembered from his own dark days. "I'll be right back," Warren said quietly. He walked outside alone. The young man froze when he saw Warren approaching. "I'm not causing trouble. I'll go." Warren heard his own words from a year ago echoed back at him. "Easy, son. I'm not here to chase you off." Warren gestured to the patch on his vest. "I was in your position once, eating out of this same dumpster. Then some bikers saw me and changed my life. Now I'm here to do the same for you. When did you last eat a real meal?" The young man's face crumpled. "I don't remember. What's your name?" "Chris. Chris Maloney." "Well, Chris,
I'm Warren.
come inside. We've got a table full of brothers who'd like to meet you." Warren led Chris inside. The Iron Wolves looked up and immediately understood. "Brothers," Warren said, his voice carrying across the restaurant. "This is Chris Maloney. He's one of us." Mitch stood up and raised his hand. "Welcome home, brother." Chris stood there confused, overwhelmed. Tyler was already at the counter ordering food. And as Warren watched Chris sit down at their table, watched the guys pull him into easy conversation, watched hope return to a face that had forgotten what hope looked like, Warren felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. He'd been saved. Now he was saving others. This was why he'd survived. Why he'd endured those dark months on the streets. So he could be here now, in this moment, showing another lost soul that they weren't alone. Later that night, back at the clubhouse, Chris sat in the common room with a full stomach and clean clothes. Warren had given him a spare set. They were too big, but Chris didn't care. "I don't understand," Chris said quietly. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Warren sat down across from him. 3 years ago, I was exactly where you are. My wife died. I lost everything. I was eating out of that same dumpster when these guys found me. They gave me my life back. Now it's my turn to pass it forward. "I'm not a veteran," Chris said. "I don't deserve this." "You're a human being who needs help," Garrett said from the doorway. "That's enough." Chris's eyes filled with tears. "I've been on the streets for 8 months. Nobody even looks at me anymore. I started to think maybe I wasn't real." "You're real," Warren said firmly. "And you matter. And tomorrow we're going to help you figure out what comes next." What came next was bigger than any of them expected. Chris wasn't a veteran, so he couldn't stay at the clubhouse under their program. But Warren wasn't about to let him go back to the streets. He made calls, reached out to social services, found a shelter with an open bed, helped Chris apply for assistance programs, walked him through every step. 2 weeks later, Chris had a job washing dishes at a restaurant. Nothing fancy, but it was steady work. 3 months later, he had his own apartment. Small but his. Chris came back to the clubhouse every Thursday morning. He'd ride with them to Mcdonald's. He'd become part of the family. And Chris started bringing others. A woman he'd met at the shelter who needed help finding work. A teenager who'd aged out of foster care and had nowhere to go. A family living in their car. Warren helped them all. The clubhouse couldn't house everyone. But Warren had learned to navigate the system. He knew which programs existed, which churches helped, which organizations provided services. He became a connector, linking people in need with resources that could help. By December, Warren had helped 37 people get off the streets. Jessica Palmer did another story. From homeless to helper, one veteran's mission. The story showed Warren at work, making phone calls, meeting with social workers, sitting across from desperate people and showing them a path forward. "Why do you do this?" Jessica asked him. Warren looked directly at the camera. "Because I remember what it feels like to be invisible, to have everyone look through you like you're not even there. And I promised myself that if I ever got back on my feet, I'd make sure nobody else felt that way. Everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves a chance." The story aired the week before Christmas. By New Year's, donations poured in. Enough to expand the clubhouse. Enough to house 8 veterans instead of 5. enough to hire a part-time social worker to help Warren coordinate services. The program grew. Other towns asked for help starting similar programs. The model spread across Connecticut, then to neighboring states. Within 2 years, there were 12 Iron Wolves-inspired programs operating across the Northeast, housing over 100 veterans, helping hundreds more find resources. It all started with one breakfast, one old man behind a dumpster, one group of bikers who refused to look away. But this story isn't just about Warren anymore. It's about what happens when one act of kindness creates a ripple effect. When one person's healing becomes someone else's hope. When a family built on choice rather than blood proves stronger than anyone expected. The final chapter was still to come. And it would prove that sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back. 3 years after that first Thursday morning, Warren Briggs stood in front of a crowd of 200 people. It was the annual Veterans Day ceremony in Millbrook. The mayor had asked Warren to speak. He'd tried to say no. Public speaking terrified him. But Garrett had insisted. People need to hear from you, brother. They need to hear what's possible. So Warren stood at the podium, looking out at faces he recognized. His Iron Wolves family, veterans he'd helped, town council members, Jessica Palmer with her camera crew, and in the front row, Chris Maloney, now working as a counselor at a homeless shelter. Warren cleared his throat. 3 years ago, I was eating out of a McDonald's dumpster on Route 47. I was 71 years old, Korean War veteran, and I was invisible. I'd lost my wife, lost my home, lost everything that mattered. I'd given up. I was just surviving, day to day, waiting to die. The crowd was silent. Then 13 men on motorcycles saw me. They could have driven past. Should have, probably. I was just another homeless guy digging through trash. But they didn't drive past. They stopped. They saw me. And they reminded me that I was still human. That I still mattered. Warren's voice cracked slightly. Garrett Brennan and the Iron Wolves didn't just give me a meal that day. They gave me back my dignity, my purpose, my life. They showed me what real brotherhood looks like. And they taught me something important. Saving one person might not change the world, but it changes the world for that person. He looked at Garrett, who was standing off to the side. Garrett nodded. In the past 3 years, we've housed 47 veterans through our program. We've helped over 300 people find resources, housing, jobs. We've proven that ending veteran homelessness doesn't require millions of dollars or government programs. It requires people who give a damn. People who refuse to look away. Warren pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. My wife Dorothy died right before I lost everything. Her last words to me were, "Don't be alone, Warren. Promise me you won't be alone." I broke that promise for a while. I was more alone than I'd ever been. But then I found a new family. Not blood, but brothers. And now I want to honor Dorothy's memory by making sure no veteran ever has to be alone again. He looked back at the crowd. If you see someone struggling, don't look away. Buy them a meal. Listen to their story. Connect them with help. You don't have to save the world. Just save one person. Because that one person might go on to save someone else. That's how we change things. One meal. One conversation. One act of kindness at a time. The crowd stood and applauded. Some people were crying. After the ceremony, people lined up to talk to Warren. To thank him. To ask how they could help. To share their own stories of struggle and survival. An older woman approached him near the end. She looked familiar, but Warren couldn't place her. "Mr. Briggs," she said. "You don't know me. My name is Patricia Hayes. I'm Tyler's grandmother." Tyler, the youngest Iron Wolf. Warren smiled. "Tyler's a good kid." "He is. And he's alive because of you." Warren looked confused. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. 2 years ago, Tyler was struggling. He'd left the army with PTSD. He was drinking too much, thinking dark thoughts. I was terrified I was going to lose him. Then he joined the Iron Wolves. He met you. He found purpose helping other veterans. You saved my grandson's life, Mr. Briggs. And I wanted to thank you. Warren felt his own eyes well up. Tyler saved me just as much as I saved him. We all save each other. That's how this works. Patricia hugged him tightly. That night, back at the clubhouse, the guys threw a party. Nothing fancy. Pizza and beer. Music playing. Veterans and club members mixing together like they'd always been family. Warren sat on the front steps, watching everyone through the window. Garrett came out and sat beside him. "You did good today," Garrett said. "I was terrified. Couldn't tell. You're a natural." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Garrett," Warren said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "I went to the doctor last week. Got some tests done." Garrett's face changed. "And? Lung cancer. Stage 3. They caught it late." Garrett felt like he'd been punched. "Warren."
I'm okay, Warren interrupted.
"I mean, I'm not okay, but I'm at peace. The doctor says maybe 6 months. Maybe a year if I'm lucky. We'll fight this. Whatever you need. The best doctors, the best treatment." Warren shook his head. "I'm 74 years old, Garrett. I've lived a good life. The last 3 years especially. I'm not afraid. I can't lose you, brother." Warren put his hand on Garrett's shoulder. "You're not losing me. I'll always be here. In this place we built. In every veteran we help. In every Thursday morning breakfast. I'm part of this family forever." Garrett wiped his eyes roughly. "Besides," Warren said with a slight smile, "I need you to promise me something. Anything. When I'm gone, keep doing this. Keep helping people. Keep showing veterans they matter. Keep making sure nobody gets forgotten. Can you do that?" "I promise." Warren died 7 months later on a Tuesday morning in May. He was in his room at the clubhouse, surrounded by his Iron Wolves brothers. He went peacefully. The funeral was held on Thursday. Naturally, the church was packed. Veterans from across the state came to pay respects. The Iron Wolves, dressed in their vests, served as pallbearers. Chris Maloney spoke. "Warren saved my life. He saw me when I was invisible. He gave me hope when I had none. And he taught me that the greatest gift we can give someone is simply seeing them. Really seeing them." Tyler spoke. "Warren taught me that being strong doesn't mean never needing help. It means being brave enough to accept help when it's offered. And then being generous enough to help others when you can." Garrett spoke last. "Warren Briggs was my brother. Not by blood but by choice. He taught me that family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who shows up, who stays, who loves you through the hard times. Warren showed up for all of us. And we'll honor his memory by showing up for others." They buried Warren next to Dorothy at the town cemetery. His headstone read, "Warren Briggs, veteran, brother, the man who refused to be invisible." 5 years after Warren's death, the Iron Wolves Veteran Housing Program operates in 47 locations across 12 states. Over 2,000 veterans have found housing through the program. Tens of thousands more have been connected with resources and support. Every location follows the same simple model Warren helped create. See people. Feed them. Give them dignity. Help them heal. Then help them help others. The original clubhouse is still running. It's now called the Warren Briggs House. His room has been preserved as a memorial. New residents learn about the old man who started it all, who proved that it's never too late to make a difference. Garrett is 73 now. Still rides. Still runs the program. Still refuses to let any veteran be forgotten. Tyler took over as president of the Iron Wolves last year. He runs the program with the same passion Warren had. He's helped launch new chapters. He's trained other groups. He's carrying the mission forward. Chris Maloney became a licensed social worker. He runs 3 homeless shelters across Connecticut. He credits Warren with saving his life and showing him his calling. And every Thursday morning, without fail, the Iron Wolves still ride to that Mcdonald's on Route 47. The manager still has their table ready. The same table where Warren sat 3 years ago and took his first real meal in days. They order food. They laugh. They remember. And they keep their eyes on the parking lot. Watching. Looking. Because you never know when someone invisible might need to be seen. You never know when one meal might change everything. You never know when you might meet the next Warren Briggs. The next person who just needs one moment of kindness to remember they're human. The old man behind the McDonald's dumpster taught them that. He taught them that saving one person can start a movement. That dignity matters more than money. That family is built, not born. That it's never too late for a second chance. And that sometimes the people society throws away are the ones who end up changing the world. Every Thursday, when the motorcycles pull into that McDonald's parking lot, Garrett thinks about Warren, about that first morning, about the scared old man who became his brother. And he whispers the same thing every time. We're still looking, Warren. We're still seeing people. We're still refusing to look away, just like you taught us. Because that's what brothers do. They show up, they remember, and they make sure nobody ever has to be invisible again. If the story touched your heart, I want you to do something. Look around your community. See the people others ignore. The homeless veteran on the corner. The elderly person eating alone. The struggling single parent. Really see them. And then do something. Buy them a meal. Have a conversation. Connect them with help. You don't have to change the world. Just change one person's world. Because that's how movements start. One meal. One conversation. One person who refuses to look away. Drop a comment telling me about someone who saw you when you felt invisible. Share the story with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in second chances and real brotherhood. And remember Warren Briggs, the man who was eating from a dumpster until 13 motorcycles saw his jacket and everything changed. The man who proved that it's never too late to matter. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next Thursday.